with difficulties, but anyhow I will manage because I'm used to these sort of things. You know, basically whenever we talk about low-East policy, it has been so much narrated in the discourse in India and abroad that I said that it's more than enough for me to really talk about low-East policy. Let's talk about Act-East policy. The problem with the discourse with regard to low-East policy is that we are always making the narrative that look, we did this, we did that. But from the other side, what exactly are the application points of our low-East policy and how the recipients are really taking this low-East policy? In a way, we just don't know. So frankly speaking, when we have that, phases, basically we talk about low-East policy, we talk about the Southeast Asia as a major area where we have been really working on. But the problem is, how are we really going to discuss this complete discourse about low-East policy and other issues? The issue is, what exactly is our playing field in the East Asia, or you can say in the smaller sub-region is Southeast Asia. You find nations like Indonesia, which is nascent democracy, which have got a new president, Widodo, who has to really deal with corruption, some military really taking some shape over there, and also to really prop up the democracy and the nation, so that the ethnic fissures and the religious radicalism which is there can be really addressed in a better way. Then we have Malaysia, which has really slowly graduating to the two-party system, which is good enough because that gives a certain bit of maneuverability for the nation. Then we have Myanmar, in which my younger colleagues will be talking much about it, which is a semi-democracy. We don't know whether the military will again come back whenever there is a parliamentary elections, or there are certain rumblings that look, military might be prosecuted post the election, something like that. Then we are still on a very thin edge. Thailand, there is again military rule. The interesting part is you have red shirts, you have yellow shirts, but you never had the green shirts. So that is the problem. Brunei, you have the monarchy. Philippines, democracy with certain characteristics, because Philippines is the one country which is very good in terms of language, English language. Their workforce is skilled, and they are really going to challenge us in terms of KPOs and BPOs in the near future. The last, Singapore is single party which has a symbolic opposition which is coming up. Vietnam and Laos are communist parties which we all know. Now, what exactly is with regard to terminology? You have low-East policy phase 1, you have low-East policy phase 2. Then before this new government came, there was a new terminology which was coined, which was known as enhanced low-East policy. Now first you look, then you engage, then you act. So somehow the engagement part has missed in the whole discourse. In terms of achievement, if you see, what exactly have we really achieved when we initiated the low-East policy? There are 3 and 4 major achievements. We negotiated the ASEAN-India FTA, which came into effect January 2010. Then we have India-Thailand FTA, which we want to expand from 82 to more than 400 items. Then we have India-Malaysia CEPA and India-Singapore Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement. With regard to Indonesia, which is a major partner, we still have to reach a negotiating phase and really discuss the negotiations. However, in the whole process of this low-East policy, we have expanded the horizons from originally Southeast Asia to include Japan, Korea, and Australia. So you find a new arc really emerging, which we can say it is an enhanced low-East policy, or the horizon where we are really looking forward to put this Act-East policy into application. The issue is, whenever you see that economic survey, whatever is there, it says the services industry contributes maximum to our GDP, which is near about 60%. So what exactly are we really looking forward for? We are looking forward for these markets to give us a services, entrance into the services sector, which can also employ our nurses, chartered accountants, engineers, architects. But these economies are very cautious that if these Indians will come, they will swarm the place. They are hard-working people, our people will be finding no job. In terms of defense cooperation also, you see, we have extensive defense cooperation with maximum countries all across the region. What we are very good at is training and capability building. They always say that you train our guys and they are doing perfectly fine, reaching up the ranks of general or others. But the problem with regard to this is that many a times we are very cautious that whether they are also going to the Pakistan for the training, because then they will be sharing some of the training that we really give it to them. But in terms of overall global architecture, I see 3 C's in the discourse. The 3 C's are US. If you ask US for anything, it gives you consultants. If you ask China for anything, it gives you checks. If you ask India for anything, it gives you capability. So we have the 3 C's which dominate the global discourse now. Now, in terms of, there has been talk with regard to whenever we talk about the Act East policy, there is a new construct which is coming, which is known as Indo-Pacific. I am very, you can say, I am very conservative in terms of adapting to constructs, because there are issues with regard to new constructs. Because these constructs should be forcibly supported by certain multilateral institutions or multilateral thinking or multilateral forums which say that all these institutions have a future. Because why I am saying this? Because of the fact that when Asia-Pacific construct came into being, you have a new organization which was known as Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Organization. When you are narrating Indo-Pacific, you yourself are not very clear whether it's Indo-Asia-Pacific, Indo-Asia, or Indo-Asia-Pacific, whatever you can call it. When the narrative itself is not very clear, you are not very sure about the construct itself, howsoever good the geopolitical imagination is. The last, regional security architecture. You have a number of regional security architecture which are meeting, discussing, and addressing certain issues. But the problem is, we are always seeking the lowest common denominator, which means non-traditional security. Okay, we talk about human security, we talk about pandemics, we talk about everything. But the regional security core issue is kept at the sideline because China is not very happy, US is not very happy, Japan is very circumspect on all those issues. Now, what exactly are the challenges to the Act East policy when we are really talking about this? The first is, in terms of regional security, China's assertive posture is really having some rumblings in the whole security thinking in the whole region. The second is South China Sea. Have you seen the South China Sea? Many of the islands are barely 4 to 5 meters above the sea surface level. There is a high tide, most of the atolls and the islands go submerged. But there is a problem with regard to people that look, if we can hold on to this, even though no life forms can be sustained in many of the islands, but they want to hold on to it so that they have vast exclusive economic zone. The third issue is Islamic radicalism and ISIS influence. If you have gone through the papers, in nearly 100 to 150 to 200 people on a conservative estimates from Malaysia and Indonesia have gone to these regions to fight the wars. When they return, what they will be bringing to these fragile, societies will be a matter of, serious concern. Then you have fragile democracies, Myanmar, which is just delving thinly into military junta and the democratic setup. It's nascent. The other issue which you really have to address in the next 10 years is that Chinese diaspora is controlling maximum economies in these regions. You take the case of Malaysia, you take the case of Indonesia, you take the case of Singapore. The other issue is Russia-China axis. Many people have made a narrative that, look, we are coming back to the Cold War phase when Russia and China were together way back in 1960s and 70s. Then also there is the problem with regard to ASEAN fissures, the differences between the ASEAN nations coming to the surface. Because there is an impoverished ASEAN and there is a well-to-do ASEAN. That fissures for the time being were kept under surface. But if you see, whatever has been done with regard to any big summit, many times the communiques haven't really come on the surface because China was influencing a few of those have-nots against the haves. And also there is an issue with regard to India's lack of initiative on economic and trade issues. If you see the negotiation phase of most of the ASEAN nations, we have taken unduly long time to really negotiate with them. And they become impatient. However, I won't say India was always at the wrong end, but it is also ASEAN nations who want to garner as much as possible, but they don't want to cede few of the territory to India, which India has been seeking primarily in certain sectors related to services. Connectivity. 2003 to 2014, you pick up the plan of action with regard to peace, prosperity and development, which was signed way back in 2003. We have 82 items to really look forward for. Just take a note of this, how many items have they really reached in terms of proper conclusion. If you put up a new list and you say, this is the new list, have you really addressed the concerns with regard to the older list, then you move forward. The last issue is multilateral institutions and proactive diplomacy. There is a Chinese ears right behind every wall whenever there is a summit meeting or anything like that. So you will have to address these. So what exactly are the possible trajectory given these limitations and concerns that we are really facing? First, engage ASEAN for services. Services is a sector which you will find your GDP really going ahead. The second is study the structures which are coming into existence now. First is Trans-Pacific Partnership, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, and Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnerships, which are there. Just look at which really suits your plate in the short term, medium term, and long term. And build the triad. We have been really working on Southeast Asia, but there are three major fulcrum points which we should really address. One is Fiji. We are now having a good relations with it. Then there is Papua New Guinea, which is very rich in natural resources, but in terms of knowledge, education, it's really lacking. It's still a primitive society. The third is Timor-Leste, which has a huge exclusive economic zone, which has vast oil and gas reserve. And meanwhile, there are two companies which are really involved in this zone, is Videocon and Reliance for exploration. Reinvigorate BIMSTEC. I don't know why we abandon the ideas which we ourselves are very forceful in the initial stages. We adopt a baby and then make him orphan. That's very strange. Because why I'm saying that if BIMSTEC is successful, it will serve as an example for SAARC. Because BIMSTEC is what? It's excluding the Pakistan. So whenever you say that Pakistan is culprit, let's make BIMSTEC a successful model. Build on knowledge and capacity building. Training and education are your biggest strengths in the whole of the region. Build on that. Show the result, but study the perception from Southeast Asia. We always say we have done this. The student should take up the initiative that, look, we have done this. This was the perception coming from the Southeast Asian scholars, and this is what they are really looking forward for. Then it gives a comprehensive picture of our policy and its effect on certain region that we are really studying. Connectivity should not only be on paper. You go to any seminar, any conference, we talk about South Asia connectivity, Southeast Asia connectivity, Central Asia connectivity, but what exactly is something on the ground? We need to really address that. Last, in terms of possible trajectories, integrate into regional value chain. You be the hub, or you be in the process of a regional value chain. How many people have seen, cars? There are ancillary industries which support to the whole car making process. You have the panels and everything. We are importing certain things, but we need to integrate into the regional value chain so that we become indispensable to the whole economic network. This is just for your concern. So what exactly are the options when we discuss certain things? And this is my last slide. Is you say that China is really creating problem for you on Brahmaputra and all those things. I would rather say there is a Mekong River Commission, which also takes China as a dialogue partner, and there are many other countries which are the members of the Mekong River Commission. China said, look, I will share all the hydrograph, all those water flow data and everything, but they only do it during the rainy seasons. And in the dry season, they never share any data, which means their inter-river navigation and all those things are hampered. China promises the moon, but never delivers when it comes to the commitment to certain clauses within certain agreements. The second is, China has a weakness, and I reiterate that. I don't know why you are making China as a big invincible power. Please, China has certain weaknesses, engage its periphery. Why haven't we really reluctant to engage Mongolia? No, don't go to Mongolia. Why are we really reluctant to engage Taiwan? Just go ahead. Make some rumbling. Make a psychological statement that, look, we are interested. If you are interested in Sri Lanka, you are interested in Bangladesh, we are equally interested. The third issue is Indo-Pacific. People debate, decide, but where are the support institutions? And what is the cost of engagement if we really buy this US-built regional security architecture? Are we really able to deploy our troops, work on regional security and all those things? Or it's just another debating forum? Then we have a better forum which is known as East Asia Summit. Why don't you include China is already included. The other issues within Indo-Pacific, your Australia, which is a very close US ally, include China also in it. You yourself are not very sure what your alliance partner are really looking for. But ASEAN defense industry, it's in a very nascent phase, it's just not taking off. But if we really look into this thing, we can ask these countries for platform fabrication, because your shipyards, dockyards are completely full of orders. So ask them to at least build up that dhacha and send it across. We will integrate every technology and everything else. You don't know what exactly are we integrating. There is a so-called security and confidentiality clause. The third is Northeast India, Myanmar and Thailand, trijection of low-tech manufacturing. You can't do heavy-duty, heavy-tech manufacturing over there because that environmentally it's not sustainable in the long run. The third is military training and exercises. What we used to do, we bring those cadets from those countries to our country to learn from here. Why not deploy your personnel to these places? And we have done 2 such experiments in Malaysia as well as in Indonesia, which they said, okay, you come over and train us. That's a better cost-effective way. The third is East Asia Summit, which is very important for us, and we look forward for it, build consensus on that within ASEAN, that look, this is the way regional security will go. The last, HADR, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, for which my previous speakers have really talked about. Regional terrorism database, sheer intelligence or religious conferred. My name is Pankaj Jha. Okay, I change my religion, I become something else. But in the passport, I am carrying the same name. How you are going to detect that religious convert who is having the same passport? Because over there, I am not changing anything. That is the major challenge which is going to come. Space, work on nano and micro satellites, involve the IITs in this regard. Create certain things which are very 100 kgs, such satellites, use it for issues like surveillance, reconnaissance, or agriculture, whatever database, geospatial, imaging, mapping, whatever you want to do. The other issues, study de-radicalization programs which have been in existence in Indonesia. Because then we know how to de-radicalize those people who are coming back from West Asia or from other places. Conflict resolution, there have been 2 very good examples within Southeast Asia which have resolved conflicts which have lasted for more than 3 decades. Study them so that you can understand what are the nuances in terms of resolving long-lasting conflicts. And formulate a policy document on Act East policy. That this is the trajectory, these are the guidelines, these are the objectives, and this is what we look forward in the next 5 to 10 years. Last, rebuild on institutions such as BIMSTEC, Mekong Ganga Cooperation. They still have some life left in them. And thank you.